All right, so while we have ourselves a moment, we're going to go back and get some thoughts from the analysts.
Thank you very much, Toby. Yes, back on the analysis desk, we'll find out, and the investigations will continue on what's happening for the players, and we'll get that fixed. But in the meantime, it gives us a brief opportunity to discuss the first part of the game. And Merlin, let's start with you. How do you assess it so far from a complexity point of view? They must be thrilled.
Yeah, the Queen of Pain is doing fantastic. Tusk Skinks roamed out pretty well. They got that first Roche. I mean, everything's shaping up to be a pretty good early game. But at the same time, their lineup's completely geared around early game. And, Klinks is one of the best Roche takers. And, I feel like they're on a little bit of a timeline, but it's not too straining because of how well their early game.
Okay. Winter, you agree with that? And if so, what is that window?
I mean, I agree with Ben totally, but the thing is, like, the Queen of Pain has gone for a very unusual item choice. He went for Soul Booster after the Aghanim's, which we were kind of surprised, like, what is the possible reasoning behind building an Octarine core this early on, because we kind of felt the AM would actually be a problem to complexity, and without a solid disable, like a Side of Vice, it's very difficult for them to catch Fear, and they can't really control him from split pushing the whole map.
Okay, Wagger, you're nodding.
Yeah, we were talking, me and Winter earlier, about how Hex Refresher after Aghanims is an extremely potent build, can even solo kill an anti-mage in best case, as you have so much pure damage. But now without Hex, and they don't have Orchid on either Queen or the Klinks, they have pretty bad lockdown, actually, apart from the Tusk and Clockwork.
Okay.
But they're on a timer, but they're doing well, so Complexity is still in the driver's seat this game.
Okay. Seb, are you concerned at all for EG? Do you feel like they need to get a move on, or do you feel like it's a waiting game, as Ben explained?
I'm not so concerned for them. I think right now they're pretty happy with how the game's going, and I think they're going to take it if it keeps on going like this, and that's why I questioned the Klinks pick. I thought it wasn't aggressive enough. I mean, it is, but not. Like, you can't really end the game with a Klinks, at least not against that lineup that EG has. But what I saw in that game, I'm questioning the Sand King pick for EG, just because the way Sumail plays, he's very aggressive, but he's aggressive when he gets the farm he wants, or he thinks he needs to have in order to be aggressive. But in this game, he was just running around early on because he got a tough game, but I mean, it can happen, especially when you're a player like this. People are going to gank you. And then Sand King was just farming the jungle all the time because that's what you want to do as a Sand King. And what Sumail does, usually, he's the one that's going to be farming those big camps in the jungle. He always does it for like 5 minutes minimum. And then he goes and roams around. And he couldn't in that game, so he fell behind completely. And now that Universe got his dagger and he's just creating space for Sumail to farm, you can see he's coming back in the game. Anti-Mage is doing great. It's an anti-mage, so EG is looking really great now.
Okay, not quite the Sumail show that he said he was promising his fans this morning on Twitter, but it could be, though. It still could be over the period of 3 games over the next few hours. Melini, how do you assess Complexity's opening and the way that they've started the game? It's strong, but you said there's a window. If there is a window, where is it?
I think there's a window at some point, but it can be extended by how well they control the Winter Wyvern. I think that's a really key hero in keeping the anti-mage alive. And again, they don't really have that many great AoE tools to deal with them. Nothing like a AoE stun from Sand King. They don't actually have any AoE stuns at all, aside from Snowball, which is very unreliable. So as long as they control Winter Wyvern, I think they'll be okay. Again, the Hex, we'll see how that item pans out.
You disagree with Seb? Because he's quite confident that EG are okay right now, and they can take this, and it shouldn't be a problem for them.
I mean, I think they're in a good position right now, but at the same time, it only takes like 1 pick on anti-mage. And, of course, Roshan is really, really important because then they can afford to make a lot more mistakes, and they can also take more risk and siege high ground and end the game when they want to. I mean, they don't really want this to go another, 50, 60 minutes just because anti-mage is going to beat out Klinks later because he can get Abyssal and Butterfly, and Klinks doesn't scale that well because Death Pact. So
I think Klink scales fairly strongly, though, because at ESL, I want to go back to that. We said EG ran Klinks as well, and we saw Klinks late game beating down Anti-Mage really hard just because if you go full damage on Klinks and you can get the initiation, that's all that matters. Like, who goes first?
Their support crews a lot better.
He has the Chen creeps as well. Like, the Chen creeps is far stronger.
They have Winter Wyvern, though.
It's true, but the problem, they have a lot of control for Klinks. They can protect the target Klinks goes for. They can Winter Wyvern ulti the Klinks. They can Sand King can always disable. It's the easiest thing to do for a Sand King to just stun the guy that you want. It's a very reliable disable, the Sand King stun. They have Naga. I think it's going to be a tough game for Klinks to carry because he's going to be the main damage dealer. I don't think it's going to be easy for him.
He has to get a BKB. AM doesn't. That's already... a big deal.
The big part that kind of makes me, insecure about complexity in this game is the fact that they have no Hex and no Orchid. So the fact that Queen of Pain went for the Octarine is really making me worry for them. But other than that, they're in a very good spot from their early game performance. Like, I don't think any one of us expected Swindle on his Queen to win against Sumail mid on his Lina. And he did that without any help at the beginning.
Winter, you said yesterday, many of these games now that they're in the bracket come down to mistakes, and mistakes that either individuals make or the team make. Is there anything you've seen so far from either team that would concern you in terms of mistakes?
I think I'm just going to go back to the point where so far I think complexity early game wise with their draft is slightly risky, like Ben said. The window is closing on them right now, but they're still able to control the farm of EG's team in general by just securing the map and making sure that they continuously get pick off. But it's going to be a problem. Like, how are they going to kill the AM? They need to address the AM at some point in the game. You just can't ignore him the whole game. Okay. You just can't.
Right. In the way that their mentalities are right now, we know that Swindles can be emotional, and he plays on that emotion, and he wants to use that as energy. We heard Fly talk in his interview, of course, about they've got this guy and he's helped them with their communication, what have you. What are they going to be talking about right now? Because these are frustrating times, particularly when you're an emotional player and you want to play on the hype.
Well, I mean, to an extent, you analyze what you're going to do, your next move, the opponent's next move, and so on. But you really don't want to water that down too much. If you talk too much about overanalyzing during a pause, that can be bad for you. So I think they just need to relax and, stay positive and stay not focused now, but be ready that it could resume anytime.
Okay. Seb, what's PPD saying in the EG booth right now? What's he saying to his players, do you think?
They need to keep on playing how they are playing, and that complexity is going to try, I think, to end the game. It's the game they want to play. You see the Kings went for BKB. He wants to fight, and EG doesn't want to fight. So the only fight they're getting is the fight that it's going to happen when they try to push or get a set of racks. So in that regard, EG, they need to be ready. They have a lot of anti-push. Winter Wyvern is one of the best anti-push. Like, it's actually super hard to push into a Winter Wyvern. And same goes for the Lina. So EG is just gonna, clear the waves until complexity they will have to initiate on the EG side. They need to prevent the Winter Wyvern and Lina from just spamming them out. But it's really hard to initiate in base against the Naga Sanking, because AUI is just gonna stand behind. He's gonna sleep whenever they go in, and then they're gonna counter go with the Sand King. It's gonna be easy initiation for Universe because it's gonna be like 4 or 3 slept target. So it's gonna be really hard for complexity to break the base, just because they don't have that super tanky hero that can just, stand there, eat the nukes with the Chen Mech, the Chen Olhi, and keeps on killing the tower. Klinks doesn't do that.
I think that comes to the point where it's going to be the Clockwork's job to make sure the Naga doesn't do her job. So it's going to be very crucial whether the Clock gets the hook shot on the Naga, whether the Naga is out of position and she comes into hook range. That would be crucial for them.
There's going to be a great duel indeed between the Clocker and the Naga if we come to that base push.
Around about 10 minutes there was complexity. It was a good example of that, where they did pick off Lina and Naga as well. And have they got to keep doing that? Have they got to keep trying to find that, catch a player out of position, just pick one off and retreat and keep doing it and doing it and doing it? Is that maybe that's the key to victory?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they need to get kills so that they can Roshan safely, because if EG are alive, they can easily contest Roshan. They have Sanking, they have Naga. That's all you really need to know that you can go there. So they need to keep finding kills so that they can take over the enemy map and go for Roshan in order to take high ground.
I think the other thing that they need to do in maybe the next 5 minutes is to get a gem, secure the map. Currently, they still don't have. They don't have a gem, so EG still has somewhat vision around outside the base. They have vision in complexity jungle, so they know if the Chen is not in their jungle, they're probably in their EG's around EG's towers and stuff, so they can actually know when to play defensively. So I think the gem would be the next key thing for complexity.
It's a very good point, because what people need to understand is that in that type of game, the only thing that keeps EG alive is the vision. It's the main thing for them, more than anything else. It's just being able to know where complexity is trying to attack and how to play around them.
Yeah.
But if they would, I don't think they're going for the pick-off game complexity, because if you're Klinks and you have an Aegis and you want to play that way, I think you get a Hex instead of the BKB. Because he can solo kill Anti-Mage with the Hex.
Yeah,
it's going to four-shot him.
They need the AM and the Lina to feel pressure. They don't feel safe anywhere on the map. Yep. And at this point, Lina's pretty scared about Anti-Mage can do whatever. Once he gets a Hex, it's a completely different game.
I mean, once AM clicks on the Queen of Pain now, he probably knows there's a Soul Booster, so he's going to know that the next 10 minutes or so, if nothing major happens, he can do whatever he wants. it's so hard for them to kill him.
As long as he has some wards out, he can still do whatever he wants, yes? But if these wards get removed and you don't have any tier 1 or tier 2 tower, that's when it gets really difficult to play the anti-mage. So
the way they have to play in that game, you need, as anti-mage, you need Naga behind you or Sand King to be around, because then you can play very aggressively. They're going to waste time into going on you. I think Sand King and anti-mage and Lina, both of them, like the three of them, can pressure lanes. And it's going to be up to Naga and Winter Wyvern to be positioned well enough. So, like, if BPD and AUI, they predict where Complexity is going to gank, they're going to make them waste a lot of time, and they're going to keep on farming, and eventually they're going to be too farmed for Complexity to handle.
Swindles in the mid lane versus Sumail is something we were looking forward to. We've already said it's not quite the Sumail show so far, but that gives credit in some way to Swindles as well. Is there anyone else in either team that you've looked at so far and thought, actually, they're playing better than I thought they would?
I'd say Fly. I wouldn't say he played better than I thought he would, because I thought he played amazingly well during the group stage. He didn't play bad this year, but not as well. He was like literally impressive during the group stage. He stepped up his game completely, and he's one of those players, he's known for his land potential. That guy was in the old Fnatic with No Tail, Hani, etc., and they were known for being that scary team at land, because they're just beasts on land, and he was captaining that team, so he knows his lands.
He's very calm as well as a person. You can tell when he plays Enigma, he's very patient. He gets a very good ultimate all the time.
And in that game, we were mentioning the Swindleman versus Sumail matchup, and it was important. And who actually gave 2 kills to the co-op? It was Fly. His rotations were on point, so he's always performing at the highest level so far. So I'm very
interesting position for him to be in, isn't it? Because he was in secret. We all know that they've now come into the international as the hot favourites, but he's not in that team. Some players would come out of that and go, well, obviously I must be terrible then. I can't be good enough to play at the top level. And that could damage someone's confidence very, very severely. But he's taken it the other way. He's almost taken it as I mean, you heard him in the video. I've learnt a lot. I've played with some great players. They're still great players. I've become a better player as a result of playing. It's a great attitude to have.
It is.
And then bring into a very inexperienced Dota 2 team and apply that. Someone said to me, and I almost feel this is a little unfair of it, he was maybe a small fish in a big pond, and now he's a big fish in a small pond. But I get